This is my dad. He's an all-around cool guy for many reasons. He has a great sense of humor, he has a great taste in music, and he cares a lot about his family. But what you may not know about him is that he's a lover of cars, and this is evident by his ownership of this, the Shelby GT500, which he's owned since December of 2016.
I've always been a car guy. When I was a teenager, I really liked watching auto racing, particularly Indy 500, because that falls on my birthday weekend every year. But I was a poor kid and I could never really afford a really nice car. But watching auto racing and growing up, being a fan of that, and really liking American cars, I kind of got attracted to Shelby cars. There was no way I was ever going to be able to afford one of those earlier in life, but when I turned 50, I figured it was time to make the jump. So I was looking for a new car. I was looking for something that I could just drive for fun and not have to use every day. And so I started looking for a Shelby again at that time, and that's when I found this one.
But what got him interested in the GT500 in particular? Well, part of that has to do with the story of Carroll Shelby. My dad first learned about the story of Carroll Shelby back when he was a teenager in the 80s. But in the 50s and early 60s, he was a great American race car driver at a time where there weren't a lot of great American race car drivers. NASCAR still hadn't taken off in the States, and Indy cars were something that they would race once a year at the 500 in Indianapolis. Auto racing at that time was mainly dominated by European race car drivers and European race cars. Shelby was one of the first Americans to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans, an endurance race meant for the best of the best drivers. He raced Aston Martins, Maseratis, and Ferraris. But what he really wanted to do was make a great American race car.
So in the 60s, he started with the Cobra, and then he started building GT350s and GT500s, which are Mustang-based like this. And then he built the GT40, which is what won Le Mans in the 60s, and that's what Ford versus Ferrari is based on. So what I wanted was a little piece of that legacy, and buying a Shelby GT500 is an easy way to get a piece of that. You honor that by taking care of the car, keeping it true to what Shelby made, keeping it in the Shelby registry, and doing everything you can to preserve that heritage, and I feel like I'm doing that with this car. So I'm not just owning a fast car that's fun to drive, I'm owning a little piece of history, and I kind of like that.
There aren't a lot of practical uses for cars like this, but my dad tries to justify owning such a car by driving it through parades and attending local car shows. He became a member of the local Shelby Club as a means of hanging out with more Shelby owners who understand and really get the legacy of Carroll Shelby. It is Saturday, October 17th, 2020. My family's come up for a visit, and Dad brought up his Shelby so he could take me along to tear through the Ozarks on the Pigs Trail, one of the top 10 scenic drives in the country. The trip had pretty views and a ton of winding roads, but the best part of it all was being able to drive through it in a car made to go fast.
This thing has a huge V8 engine that's specially tuned for racing. It's got a supercharger and makes 600 horsepower. This is a convertible, so it doesn't lend itself to being raced. It doesn't lend itself to being raced around a track very much because it's not all that rigid or sturdy. It'll bend itself up because of all the power that it has. You know, it's kind of a gentleman's cruiser, but it's a gentleman's cruiser with 600 horsepower. So it's a big motor, it's a lot of power, it goes really fast, and the convertible just makes it a lot of fun to cruise around in.
Sometime in the future, Dad's gonna teach me how to drive this car. And when that time comes, I know I'm gonna enjoy every second of driving it as much as he does.